The following contains violence, coarse language, and adult situations not suitable for minors. Viewer discretion is advised.
Brutal!
We're gonna get copyright struck by Team 4-Star. That'll be how we get internet fame. But for now,
like Team 4-Star has a foot to stand on. Considering the constant
enough.
copyright battles they get with the guys who behind Toei.
Fair enough. Regardless, welcome everyone. We are live on a Sunday afternoon, I guess. Because, you know, hello, worse than you. We need to finish this, and I will be gone next week. And I have other things I wish us to do. Ooh, secret things that I'm trying to get, a guest for, but for now, scheduling conflicts. Regardless, we're here, rewriting Ripley again. With our dear author, Shoggoth, who I'm sure will tell us about the generational cost of hate, the outright successful political attacks against progressive culture. Not that progressive culture is anything worthwhile. Well, so far I've only seen it destroy the relationships between men and women, the relationships between mothers and sons. And basically, I've seen it destroy just about every aspect, the 5 pillars that hold up society. But that's just my opinion, I suppose. By the time the sequel trilogy is about to come to a close in December 2019, the only retaliation against the organized racist and sexist barrage against it has been a few tweets and a few articles crying out against hateful trolls and neckbeards. I disagree. I feel like the hateful trolls and neckbeards got quite a few articles about them. Like, isn't there, like, I feel like Geeks and Gamers' whole, like, channel existence leading up to the rise of Skywalker was like, yeah, the media hates nerds. Like, is that wrong? Am I incorrect in that assumption? Most of this is left to reverberate within the echo chamber of Twitter, and any real action needed against the rising alt-right radicalization within Star Wars fandom is not even a thought. The victor of the war on culture is being waged from the depths of designated hate groups to top-viewed YouTube videos is now left to be decided by Lucasfilm, Disney, and Bad Robot. This is a lot to ask of companies who likely have little understanding of what is happening within their own fan base and whose way of conducting business and creative decisions for decades has never had to consider things like coordinated aggression from white supremacists and anti-feminists. Yes, white supremacy is the same as anti-feminism. Absolutely. They are absolutely the same thing.
Yes, if you think like the Gamergaters are a white supremacist movement, you have it way too good in your life. You've never known what it's like to struggle.
These people push me away from Star Wars and into tokusatsu. If anything, it's written about. It's only in Japanese. Fair enough. These people aren't culturally minded enough to actually, like, consume external media.
Yeah. Haven't you heard that what I was going to say manga, but really just Demon Slayer alone is pretty much outselling both Marvel and DC.
Yep. That's because Demon Slayer is a good story. All right. And so, in the ending of this little-known battle of cultural progress versus deterioration was, in hindsight, inevitable. Again, all about the framing of the narrative. Remember, we're bastions of cultural progress, despite, having no way of defining what cultural progress is. Is because, these people are dumb. Shoggoth is dumb. She doesn't understand she doesn't understand how, if I were to ask her to define what would be the markers for what you call cultural progress, she would point to something like women's rights or gay rights or something like that. And I would say, had those things before, so what are you fighting for now? Well, we're fighting for more rights, but then that's not progress. You just want power. If you have the equivalent rights to every other member of society, then you're just trying to make yourselves more or powerful within society. If you're supposedly fighting for your rights, it's when you already have them. In the end, the alt-right attack on Star Wars was successful, carrying with it considerable damage for creatives involved, and that for the myth of an entire generation became unknowingly squandered to hate. The targeting of progressive and diverse creatives.
Diverse creatives.
Again, so I don't think I've talked about this, is that progress is not always virtuous. Like, people like Shoggoth here will hold up progress as they will define progress in whatever twisted means they need to make it positive and hold it up as a virtue. And the problem is progress is not always virtuous.
Mhm.
Neither is diversity, but holding the two up as virtues because they are so because they are inherently nebulous.
So, what would you say that her definition of progress is?
I would have to ask her, I would ask her, how are we defining progress? I would ask our Shoggoth, okay, what do you define as diverse? What do you define as progress? And I'm sure there would be some sort of SJW nebulous definition. But I would say, okay, but within those definitions you can I have no doubt it would be some sort of really easily manipulatable definition. Diversity is representing black and brown voices is just as equally as it were, I don't know, white voices. And but if that's her definition, then I would point out that the rest of the world doesn't seem to follow that definition either. Or I'm not going to go to a Chinese cinema and say, oh, there's no white people in this movie. We need to be represented. And that's the thing, holding these two ideals up as if they are inherently virtuous, as if they have some inherent virtue, is why the left is so morally insane. It's why they have purity spirals, because there's each one of them, because these are nebulous concepts and ideal concepts too. So they end up just endlessly purity spiraling because the definition changes every 5 minutes. As Gamergate demonstrated, upset you lost. No caustic battle against culture is targeting simply the culture itself. There's always a human cost attached. Similar attacks experienced by Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian and Brianna Wu happened to the creatives involved in the Star Wars sequel trilogy to various degrees, including a film director, 2 authors, a show host, 3 actors, and an executive.
Oh
This
no,
list is not-
people on the internet are mean.
Yeah, this list is not exhaustive, and any new creator or any woman in particular in a creative role that is hired by Lucas' traditional white Christian culture will become a target. Remember, if you're a woman hired by Lucasfilm, you're going to be harassed on the internet. A few of these attacks have already discussed, including the racist attack.
Sorry, I was gonna say. So I imagine
ahead.
even if you are a woman working at Lucasfilm, if you have conservative values, Lucasfilm themselves will be the ones doing the harassing.
Mm-hmm. A few of these attacks have already discussed, including the racist attack against Boyega in 2015, the attacks on Kathleen Kennedy, which have also included death threats by alt-right YouTubers. I would like to It's a quote directly from Star Wars. You Oh my god. Look at this. The proof that Twitter censorship is only on people they just don't like. Not that we needed any fucking evidence for that. Let Kathleen Kennedy die. Kill it if you have to. Literally a direct quote from Star Wars, and with like 2 words change and harassment. In 2016, actress Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, deleted her Instagram after receiving harassment for publishing a post against gun violence. Ridley has continuously stated that she has no plans to return to social media. Yeah, because social media is a hellhole.
I'm also curious, what was her post regarding gun violence?
Also very curious, yes. But regardless, social media is awful. Nobody likes social media. It's garbage. Which I barely have social media. This is about as social media as I get. Director Ryan, but you notice that she left Instagram not because she was receiving harassment for being in Star Wars or being a terrible actress or anything like that. She left because she made a post about gun violence and probably got checked on her opinion. Director Rian Johnson has commented that he's received multiple threats against his life on Twitter. Okay, congratulations. Welcome to Twitter. I was unaware were you looking for somewhere else? A curated bathroom, perhaps? Johnson, like Kennedy, is a popular target for alt-right YouTubers. Of all videos mentioning Rian Johnson on YouTube.
Well, she's the one in charge of Lucasfilm, so no shit, she's going to be the most criticized person.
Yeah, exactly.
She's the one approving of all the current condition of Star Wars.
Of all videos mentioning Rian Johnson on YouTube that have received less than 100k views, is that less than or more than? Less than 100k views, 45% of them are from alt-right accounts. Additionally, 60% of the top 10 YouTubers by number of videos mentioning Rian Johnson are alt-right accounts. Define alt-right.
And it looks like there's more not alt-right than there is alt-right.
Let's see. Mike Zero, I don't know enough about his content to say otherwise. Geeks and Gamers is definitely not alt-right. Clownfish TV is definitely not alt-right.
Thor Skywalker definitely
Thor
isn't.
Skywalker, I believe we've discussed, and he is about as milquetoast as you get.
Same with Star Wars Theory.
Star Wars Theory, I don't know. Collider Extras, don't know. Star Wars only. Like, look at the...
And as for $3 theater, Monday Matt has, from what I've heard, has done a complete 180 in the past few years.
Mundane Matt has the politics he needs to make himself seem like he's worthwhile. I watched like one Mundane Matt video and fell asleep halfway through. The man's boring. Other targets on YouTube have included Justin Ireland, and author of Star Wars The High Republic, A Test of Courage, and Christina Ariel, host of Star Wars The High Republic show, for tweets expressing their experiences as black women in America. These tweets, which are critical towards white people, have been used to harass these women for being anti-white. One particularly vitriolic video from alt-right YouTuber RK Outpost screams at High Republic.
Okay, stop for a minute. Okay, it says the tweets are critical towards white people, so naturally people are going to okay. These tweets, which are critical towards white people, have been used to harass these women for being anti-white. Well, if you're writing tweets critical towards white people, then yeah, a lot of people are going to see that as being anti-white. It's like fucking kicking a bear in a cage and being upset that the bear tries to attack you.
Screams at the High Republic host for being a fucking racist, quote unquote, against white men. Ariel posted a small sample of the racist hostility that was sent to her following the video from alt-right YouTubers. Okay, so let's check out these tweets. Christina Ariel. Watching two white men discuss racism they will never experience will never sit right with me. Hashtag debates 2020. White men, this is not the subject for you, and to try and speak authoritatively in my comments, I said what I said.
If you're going to attack somebody, don't be surprised if said somebody is going to attack you back.
But further, judging from her profile picture, I don't think she's very black. I mean, I don't want to take that away from her, but I feel like we have like a Rachel Dolezal situation over here. Regardless, like, how do you know that they've never experienced racism? Unless you're one of those people that believe that racism doesn't have a fixed definition and therefore we can, make up whatever definition we want for racism, and thus white people are racist.
Yep, very much the whole power plus privilege is what racism is. I guess white people can't be. I guess white people can't be racist.
Like how do you define racism?
Including white people. I guess including white people who are hobos living on the street. They can never experience racism either.
Your challenge: writers, pitch your book with brutal honesty. There are black people, and they don't die or exist just to help white people. Wow. Perhaps you should follow your own advice, Justinia Ireland, because yeah, like that, all of that. Like if you have to pitch your book with brutal honesty. Black people exist. Praise me. Ariel was also targeted by... Fuck. It's been
Posobiec?
like... I think that was how it's pronounced. Posobiec, who, if you remember, pushed the hate against Boyega in 2015 before he was a known figure in the alt-right. Star Wars and Lucasfilm officially support calling all white people racist. The official Star Wars Twitter account has thrown their support behind new hire Christiana Ali, Ariel, and her declaration that all white people are racist. Yeah. Yeah. That would be correct. That would be an assumed endorsement of her ideology. And one would think, Post-Sobiech has pushed other harassment campaigns from alt-right YouTubers. How is this a harassment campaign? This isn't harassment. He's not telling people, hey, go yell at this person. He's telling people, hey, Star Wars supports racism. Like, that's called being a journalist. Not, supporting her. That's not calling for harassment. You have to sort of twist any interpretation. You have to sort of twist the interpretation of harassment from this if you think this tweet is calling for people to go harass this woman. I feel like you picked the wrong tweet. I'm sure if he's really a white supremacist, he has worse tweets on here regarding Star Wars. Most notably, the fire in the Star Wars space. Most notably, the firing of Chuck Wendig, an author who was writer for Marvel Comics at the time of the incident. In 2018, Wendig posted a viral tweet thread that criticized calls for civility when dealing with right-wing extremism that landed him in a video by comic artist Per Secrets. Ethan Van Sciver. Wendig was then harassed on his Twitter account by Sciver's followers. Wendig was abruptly fired from Marvel following the harassment. Sobiech approved the firing in a now deleted Periscope. The harassment was part of both ongoing Comicsgate harassment campaigns against progressive writers and a larger directive by the alt-right to attack liberal and progressive creators. The latter was also pushed by Sobiech, who was instrumental in the firing of Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. Are we going to ignore the fact that James Gunn was sort of a creeper? I guess we're just going to ignore that fact because it supports my narrative. At Chuck Windid, hashtag move the needle is working as intended. Good riddance. Thankful for Comicsgate and Ethan Van Sciver at Diversity in Comics. Less mentally unstable people in the industry with Chuck's eviction.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. From what I know about Chuck Wendig, yeah, he's pretty much a nut. He is your typical SJW soy boy working in the mainstream industry.
Like, yeah, we're just gonna ignore all these tweets from James Gunn about how he's sort of creepy. Like, little boy creepy. Like, touch little boy creepy. We're just going to ignore that. The firing of James Gunn was... like, yeah. The most well-known harassment campaign led by alt-right Star Wars YouTubers was the harassment of Kelly Marie Tran.
Oh no.
Yes, exactly. Precisely worse than you. Tran has been the target of racist harassment in disturbing ways that spread across Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and even her character's fan wiki. On Instagram, Tran's posts were riddled with harassment, telling the actress to shut the fuck up, and she did a terrible job in The Last Jedi.
Okay. They're mean people on the internet.
There are mean.
I don't know what to tell you.
On Twitter, alt-right personality Paul Ray Ramsey, he posted a tweet making fun of Kelly's body weight. Battlestar Galactic Asian versus hashtag Last Jedi Asian. Obviously, the First Order failed to cut off the Resistance's supply line of food. Oof.
That's funny.
That's good. That's a good joke. Yes, it comes at the expense of Kelly Marie Tran, but in fairness, everything about Rose Tico is sort of like repulsive. Like, why does she have this hairstyle? Who in design said, give her bangs? Give her bangs and then like we'll frame her face.
Yeah. The tragic part is Kelly Marie Tran is actually really attractive.
I don't know.
Rose, when she's not dressed as Rose Tico, but yeah, it's just kind of like what the fuck happened in the costume department.
Lucina observed. What? Who? Observed that people use different language to talk about Star Wars and to talk about Rose Tico. About 6% of Star Wars posts use offering offensive language.
Oh no.
I don't. Worse than you. I don't think bangs can ever look attractive. Like that 90s heartthrob hair. That's the ugliest hair a man can have. It hands down it's the most unattractive hair. Bangs in a frame is like the worst hair a woman can have.
I guess it all comes down to maybe the length of the bangs. And maybe how they're positioned.
At the rate of offensive language posts about RT, KMT, I don't know what that is double 12%. Hate speech was about 60% more common, and retweets about Rose Tico compared to other Star Wars topics, 1.8 versus 1.1. In one instance, Rose Tico's Wikipedia page was edited to read.
Yes, I love this one.
Ching Chong Wing Tong is a dumbass character Disney made and is stupid, autistic, and
retarded. I like how so many people on the internet are
Finn.
I love how so many people on the internet are just terrified of writing the word retarded.
She better die in a coma because she's a dumbass bitch. I mean, I feel like this is accurate considering she directly causes what is effectively the end of the Resistance.
Well, almost did if it wasn't for Luke and Rey's intervention.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, there's 50 of them left. But at the beginning of the next movie, they can field an entire fleet. Sorry, tired. YouTube, however, carried the worst of the harassment. Searching Rose Tico on YouTube will instantly bring you to negative and hateful videos towards the character. Almost 60% of videos mentioning Rose Tico will 100 with less than 100,000 views are from alt-right channels. Almost half of the top YouTubers by number of videos mentioning Rose Tico are alt-right channels. Yes. Skyver published 18 videos alone on Rose Tico.
Skyver makes a lot of videos.
He does. He makes daily content, doesn't he?
Yes. And once again, it's very much the whole everybody I don't like is alt-right. And
Star
yes,
Wars.
and naturally, there's going to be a shit ton of Rose Tico videos are going to be negative. She's a widely despised character. She's the new Jar Jar Binks.
He's worse than Jar Jar Binks. At least Jar Jar Binks has some comedic value. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Becoming Rose. Official account. It means whatever they want it to mean, worse than you.
Yes.
Why Rose doesn't work.
Alt-right account of unspecific alt-right accounts.
Yeah. Rewriting Rose, The Last Jedi, again. Rose Mini, shut up, Star Wars. Shut up. Ryan Johnson's son is an idiot. Reddit destroys Rose Tico on the anniversary of The Last Jedi. One of the worst characters in Star Wars. No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. You know why? Admiral Holdo is worse.
Yes, she is.
Because while Rose is almost directly responsible for the end of the Resistance, Holdo is directly responsible for putting the Resistance in that situation. 100% her fault. Disney Star Wars spins failure. Missing Rose Tico triggers Access Media. Why Rose from The Last Jedi looks so familiar. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Rose saves Finn. The worst scene in the history of film. Yes. Disney removes Rose Tico from Star Wars merch. Is this them admitting the failure of The Last Jedi? Good question. Star Wars SJW Star Wars Rose Tico toys sales spike 300%. Interesting. Media blaming toxic Star Wars fan for Rose Tico's fate. Leaning Tower of Tico, an embarrassment to Star Wars toys. Star Wars Last Jedi, bad writing, Rose Tico's arc. Top 10 YouTubers mentioning Rose Tico. Comic artist Pro Secrets. Okay. So the man covers media news, and makes daily content. Never heard of them. Never heard of them. Never heard of them. Watched them. They're not alt-right. Never heard of them. Never heard of them. Not alt-right. Probably not alt-right. Probably not alt-right. Probably not alt-right. Most definitely not alt-right. Spaceman reviews. Okay, so my guess is for this one, she put him in unknown because he's probably white. He's probably a man and he's white. And then world-class bullshitters, I don't think they're alt-right. They're a bit conservative, but I don't think they're alt-right.
Nope.
Watching videos about Rose Tico from alt-right / the Fandom Menace channels is unsettling.
Ooh.
To put it mildly, you will often stumble upon people wishing death towards the character. YouTuber Mahler, in his review of The Last Jedi, refers to Rose as Shrek. And
Yeah, that's funny.
growls, Shrek didn't have the decency to fucking die.
Yeah, that's funny.
That is funny.
Also, since when is wishing death on a character the same thing as harassing the actress?
I don't know. Since Shoggoth needs to push her conspiracy theory and narrative. One video entitled Star Wars Sequels But Rose Always Dies, 1 minute and 40 seconds of scene from The Last Jedi, edited to imply that Rose dies in each scene.
That's funny.
Hilarious. The most disturbing video against Kelly Marie Tran and Rose Tico on YouTube is an hour-long unboxing video by comics artist Pro Secret, where he seems to unbox dozens of Rose Tico action figures for 1 hour with no dialogue, only a soft piano track playing in the background. At points in the video, stops on so he stops. unboxing and stabs and slices them.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay, so what? I mean, like, I assume he paid for them. I assume. I assume his fans could have sent them to him as, a joke, but they're effectively his property and he can do what he wants with them. It does not imply he has any sort of strong feelings regarding the actress. Just he doesn't like the character. It's like when girls like cut the Barbie doll's hair. A live stream on March 17th, 2021, titled Zack Snyder Disses the Fandom Menace, includes comments from Skyver that suggest the hate against Rose Tico is racially motivated. In the live stream, Skyver discusses comments by Justice League director Zack Snyder given during a charity live stream for suicide prevention that Justice League Snyder Cut is not associated with Geeks and Gamers, who had a major hand in the charity fundraiser.
Oh, I thought this. Oh, I thought that incident happened after this article came out. Jeez, it has been
She might have updated it.
Yeah. It's been a while, man.
During a charity live, blah blah blah, who had a major hand in the charity fundraiser, Snyder also speaks out against the hate crime that occurred in Georgia in March 2021, where 6 Asian women were killed by a white gunman.
Was that ever proven to be racially motivated?
It was not racially motivated. It was because, he was weird. He had a weird thing about sex. And I'm surprised that she mentioned this because the guy literally said it's not because they were Asian, it's because I suffer from sex addiction, and these places tempted me, so I decided to get rid of them. But remember, the mainstream media can read your mind, so if you defend yourself from a black person, you're racist. You're getting mugged and you shoot the black person in defense? You're clearly racist. How could you deny them the money they deserve in terms of reparations? In response to Snyder, Jesus. Okay. Hold on. All right, I'm back. All right. In response to Snyder's remarks, Skyver states in a now removed YouTube video, and to me, no, Zack Snyder will never stop me from killing Chinese people, ever. I don't care how many movies he makes. Laughs are heard as Skyver speaks. Comicsgate supporter and YouTuber John Millen, who was also present on the live stream, echoes Skyver's comments, asserting, "We haven't killed enough." Snyder continued, "Give me a Tommy gun, line him up against the wall, as the great Stan Lee once said, hashtag nuke China, right? That's right." He confirmed Skyver. Malin? Oh, John Malin. Okay. Thank you, Cyrek.
What's this even referring to?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of missing context here.
It sounds like
it's also very clear they're joking.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like that. It sounds like some kind of anti-communism joke, and that is a pretty, a common kind of joking remark among people within our circle that a good commie is a dead commie.
Very true.
Welcome, Cyrek.
The YouTubers deflect their obvious hand in enabling trans harassment by declaring that they love Rose Tico. They call themselves Ticopaths. There's even merch and credit Skyver with rehabilitating her character before continuing to laugh at death wishes against her character. In June 2018, Tran deleted her Instagram. She has not announced any plans to return to social media. Again, why would she? She probably got off Instagram and Twitter and realized, oh, my life is actually so much better now that I'm off these places. Now that I'm not ingesting negative content 24/7. Like, straight up, I am not on Twitter. Well, we are on Twitter, but, might as well not be. Like, I'm not on Twitter. I'm barely on Parler. Again, YouTube is about as much social media as I ingest in a day. And 90% of the time, I'm not even ingesting negative content or news-like content. Because I know if I were to do that, I would be a depressing, angry person who's not fun to be around. Are we getting hints, Shuggoth, and those that spend all day, every day on Twitter, or scrolling through Twitter, or like, get off Twitter. You'll be better for it. Mission completed. The Rise of Skywalker retcons The Last Jedi. Sweetheart, what was he meant to do?
There's not really much you could do after The Last Jedi. A lot of those plot threads that The Force Awakens left open were stomped on by The Last Jedi.
I'm also on Discord, Cyrek, but I feel like Discord isn't necessarily social media. I would not consider it to be social media. It's more like, I guess, I don't know. I don't think Discord has an equivalent. TeamSpeak, I guess, but TeamSpeak's, I guess, an easier version of TeamSpeak. Anyway, you sir are correct. Anyway, yes, The Rise of Skywalker had to retcon the last things in The Last Jedi. Because when you examine the story, there's nowhere to go. We had find Luke as the motivation as the through line for what was it? For The Force Awakens. We found Luke at the end of The Force Awakens. The next movie should be Luke figuring out what the hell Luke was doing, and him training Rey and all that. Meanwhile, the Resistance search for the remnants of the First Order who are cowering somewhere. That would be a logical step in the next direction. Instead, Rian Johnson was just like, oh, the First Order discovered where the base was at the end of the last movie, so let's just have them appear in a full fleet force and blow it up. Because that's where Star Wars is supposed to be. That's the thing. Rian Johnson considered that the second movie in the trilogy is always the heroes at their lowest. That's where, so the next movie can define the heroes, can see the heroes rise above and go there and be at their highest. But the problem is with J.J. Abrams' story, and with the story J.J. Abrams set up, and the next logical progression isn't the heroes falling, it's the heroes rising higher. But Ryan Johnson wanted to make his movie the heroes at their low point, so he just put pieces on the board where he wanted them. So at the end of Ryan Johnson's The Last Jedi, we have no stakes. It's because, well, Snoke is dead. Kylo Ren is straddling the line. Is basically one hug away from turning good. Hux has been incompetent. Been made completely non-threatening by his own boss. Like we have no stakes. There are no stakes here. Our main villain is gone. Our main villain is gone, and our heroes don't have any sort of resources to continue fighting an enemy that should be, in theory, on their last legs. So yes, The Rise of Skywalker had retcons. A lot of retcons. There's a reason for that. Not because people were upset at The Last Jedi. In December 2019, after 4 years of highly coordinated racist and sexist hate against the trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker was released in theaters, noticeably retconned Ryan Johnson's The Last Jedi. Yes, it did. Before giving examples, it is important to note that the final installment of the Skywalker saga was highly likely not any kind of malicious attack against progressive politics, nor was it some plot to appease white supremacists and anti-feminists. Additionally, the vast majority of the movie-going audiences will not have the faintest idea of the hate that occurred within the Star Wars fandom since the release of The Last Jedi. Enjoying the film does not in any way mean that one agrees with white supremacists, alt-right reactionaries, and misogynists. However, that doesn't change the fact that any plot points that ended up in the film can be tied back to alt-right conversations on YouTube. Wow. Some moments in the film are clearly included fan theories were inconsequential and were not taken purely from alt-right spaces, such as the use of the Holdo maneuver, a phrase used on Reddit and YouTube since 2017, or the moment when Luke raises the X-wing from the water in Ahch-To. Jesus Christ, is that what they called that planet? Anybody who was deep within Star Wars fandom between 2016 and 2017 can tell you how often they heard that fan favorite expectations. It was said a lot. There's nothing to say about that. Then there are the moments that are troubling, but not egregious, such as Snoke having a shoehorn backstory after fan backlash that Snoke died in The Last Jedi before any he could
Why is backlash written in quotation
deep
marks?
dive into his life story. Remember the Dave Rubin tweet? Yeah, why is backlash written in quotation marks? Hold on.
And I love the use of deep dive into his life story.
Why is backlash written in quotation marks?
Reminds me of the narrow video we did.
I wasn't wanting much. I just wanted to know where the fuck this guy came from. Like, was he always around? Is he just Palpatine? Is he a clone? Like, did Palpatine have a backup plan? A clone Palpatine? Is he, like, what is he? Where did he come from? How is he here? Or did he do not, like, was he a Jedi? Like, what's his deal? Because the problem is he just appears like 30 years on and suddenly Snoke. Like, it's weird. And it draws a lot of attention to the fact that Snoke really doesn't have a purpose within the narrative. My internet's been in and out all day, so Don't worry, Cyrek. You're probably not missing much. Yes, Snoke needed a backstory because it doesn't explain, because at the end of the day, what were our heroes doing in the 30 years there's between now and the events of the Force Awakens? Like, they just let Snoke exist, this powerful dark side Force user, or they just let him have it? Like, really? And it implies that Snoke was around at least a couple decades before, or the Force Awakens. Like, the implication is that Snoke was around around the time Kylo was youngling, and he corrupted Kylo and turned him on Luke. Like, that's the implication. But how did he do this? Where did he come from? In another moment ripped from YouTube videos, Luke Skywalker catches his lightsaber after Rey throws it away from her and scolds her that a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Agreed.
That was the greatest moment. This is a direct response to the online aggravation with Luke's opening scene in The Last Jedi when he tosses the lightsaber over his shoulder. Yes, that scene is entirely tone deaf. Like, tone deaf. The problem with that, Cyrek, is like, it implies that Luke, Leia, and Han did nothing. Like, and it's not as if they don't have, the sort of connections that would allow them to gather some sort of mercenary or splinter group to go and fight this evil. Like, why are Luke, Leia, and Han useless? Like, why did they do nothing to stop Snoke's rise? If they found out about it early enough that the New Republic had made the decision to not intervene in Snoke's rise to power, why are the three heroes of the previous who defeated the Empire not like, all right, Han, you use your charisma and leadership to guide our people. I bring the power. Luke can bring the power of the Force, and Leia has diplomatic connections, and to people like Mon Mothma and others, or at least her descendants, who could acquire them resources and whatnot. Like, this is not. But again, they are not without resources. So they created the Resistance, but they didn't get any kind of funding because the New Republic didn't want any association with them, and even blockaded trade to them. Okay, but then that implies that the New Republic is a tyranny, because these are private individuals working towards their own cause. Like, and then it brings up the question of, why does the First Order attack the New Republic in the first movie? It doesn't make sense for them to do that, because the New Republic doesn't want anything to do with the Resistance. So why are they attacking them? Like, these people have already basically rolled over and shown them their stomachs and said, please don't hurt us. Like, and how is there not massive up in arms? Like, why are planets not just up in arms about the New Republic. One moment. I'm trying to show your thing, your comment, Cyrek, but it won't click.
Yeah, that's always been a thing that bugs me about the Resistance. You'd think logically that this would be the New Republic military, but apparently they're a completely separate organization.
Which would be fine if, like the thing with Star Wars post the Return of the Jedi is you sort of have to explain you have to explain things. Like, we have an established world. We understand by and large the politics of the world, what the heroes intend to do. And the issue is that the people writing the story didn't stop and think, well, what about this? Why is this? But why isn't the New Republic, like, why aren't there open revolts in New Republic space? Why aren't there more splinter groups like the Resistance that are fighting the First Order? Or because people would be pissed about their children being kidnapped or abducted to go fight, to be indoctrinated into the First Order. Like, how are people not up in arms about that? In another moment ripped from no, we got that one. The Critical Drinker, who was in a network with other Fandom Menace alt-right YouTubers, has an especially popular video on this complaint. It is the decisions, however, that respond to anti-feminist and racist hate dutifully spread by fandom alt-right networks that make The Rise of Skywalker a distressing film to view. You just didn't like it, did you, Shoggoth?
Yeah.
You didn't like the fact that it essentially made The Last Jedi stupid.
Hey, I like that you slapped Fandom Menace and alt right next to each other.
Yeah.
Instead of saying Fandom Menace YouTuber, it's Fandom Menace alt right YouTubers. Fandom Menace alt right neo-Nazi misogynist snowflake meanie head YouTubers.
What happens to Rey's story is particularly unsettling. She ends The Last Jedi as a nobody who's been given the power not to just simply rebuild the Jedi Order, but to take the teachings of the Jedi in a new enlightened direction. However, in The Rise of Skywalker, Rey no longer has power of her own. She is told that she has the power of her grandfather, the Emperor Palpatine, one of the most recognizable and powerful villains in Star Wars canon. Yes, I think JJ was trying to go with for a team like, yeah, it doesn't matter who your birth parents are, you get to choose your own path, kind of thing. Which I think should have been Rey's story from the get-go, and I think that was actually his intention. That's sort of how The Force Awakens shakes out. Like, when the orange person played by, I think it's Taika Waititi.
No.
No.
Taika Waititi is a dude.
Oh. Who plays Maz?
Maz. That's the character's name, Maz.
Yes. I'm trying to remember the actress. Regardless. When Maz tells her, like, yo, there's nobody waiting for you. That, like, whoever you're waiting for isn't coming. You need to move on. Like, yeah. Like, that seems to be where JJ wanted Rey's story arc to go throughout the trilogy. Like, her rising above this sort of attachment she's had for the longest time to, like, her past and her parents and why they left her. Or making one of her relatives a villain that actually would have been in, in a movie that had time to breathe. The Rise of Skywalker is not that movie. Actually would have been a really interesting twist to her character. Like, you have this person who has spent her whole life in isolation and suddenly realizing that she has this entire legacy behind her of like cruelty and evil, and she decides, hey, and through the influences of others in her life, she rises above that legacy and says, I'm my own person, I can make my own way in the world. Sort of, again, continuing that arc of hers of stepping away from the past and defining who she is by her own way. Like, these are good character beats there. But Rian Johnson was just like, nah, she's just a nobody. Her past doesn't matter. But we already got that. Yeah, but you thought she would be connected to Obi-Wan Kenobi and have a legacy of goodness and righteous force using ability. But no, she's just a nobody. She's the child of Junkers. In The Last Jedi, Rey confidently wields Skywalker's saber. There's a scene in the film dedicated to her understanding of how to use the saber's power while curious. Just Luke Skywalker watches on. She later uses the saber to help defeat Snoke's guards in one of the worst fight scenes in the entire saga. In the entirety of Star Wars, it's awful. Her comfort with the saber acknowledges one of the most moving moments in The Force Awakens when the saber flies into Rey's hands and the Force theme swells around her. All of this suggests that Rey is capable and worthy of one of the most iconic objects in all of Star Wars. However, in The Rise of Skywalker, Rey tells General Leia that she will earn Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, implying that she was undeserving of the saber the whole time. I mean...
It makes her a more interesting character.
Yeah, it does. It's an attempt to make her a more interesting character. Again, the Rise of Skywalker just doesn't have time to like flush out what should have already been flushed out over 3 movies. It has to keep going. It has to be climactic. It has to be a climactic ending, but it also has to do the work of 2 other movies.
Okay, yeah. What it seems like with this article, it's like she's giving the fandom menace shit because they didn't get Star Wars their way, and now she's being upset because she's not getting Star Wars her way.
Shoggoth, you're correct. Shoggoth does seem mad that the Rise of Skywalker sort of doesn't seem to enjoy The Last Jedi. Furthermore, all the work The Last Jedi had done to bring the Jedi Order into a new era was discarded. Instead, the Jedi are treated like deities that Rey suddenly follows with no questions asked. Excuse me, even after spending The Last Jedi attempting to beat Luke Skywalker with a staff? What? I'm sorry, did we watch 2 different movies? What? Like, where did you pull this? Like, yes, in The Last Jedi, the sort of like new order for the new era for the Jedi Order was sort of forming or implied, but I'm sorry, what? The Jedi are treated like deities that Rey suddenly follows with no questions asked? Where? When? How? What? Like, I'm sorry. What is this? What are we doing? Like, Luke Skywalker appears. He's not some sort of deific figure, or that says, "Rey, you will go and and defeat Palpatine. And because I said so. In the end, Rey's story concludes where it began, alone in the desert, the final shot of the film, more for the audience's enjoyment than the character's story. As she stares into the binary sunset from A New Hope, Rey is ultimately reduced to a vessel for the past instead of a force for the future.
She was on a desert planet to bury the two lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly.
Setting up a little or sort of like a little funeral for Luke and Leia.
Precisely. Like, what?
And she wasn't alone. She had BB-8 with her.
She had BB-8 and presumably a ship somewhere. Like, how the hell did she get to Tatooine? She looks out at the two setting suns as her adventure comes to a close, and the future is as the binary sun at the binary sunset, knowing that tomorrow the future will be brighter. Like, yes, it ends with a little fan service of the binary sunset, but that's where Rey's character ended up. She chose her own legacy. Again, if the movie had time to breathe, I feel like she would have earned that by the end of The Last Jedi. But movie doesn't have time to breathe. Movie doesn't have time for like character development, so we have to shove character development in instead of, weaving it through the narrative. She's not stuck there like Shoggoth. I'm sure she got there somehow, so I'm sure she has a way off the planet. All of these decisions attempt to answer backlash against Rey's character that can be found in alt-right and radical right-wing videos. In these videos, alt-right YouTubers claim that Rey cannot be as strong as she is in the Force without intense training or a powerful Force connection to a male legacy Star Wars character. Well, yeah, kind of, because as far as we were aware, Leia didn't have the Force. Like, she had the ability to, use the Force, or she had some latent Force abilities, but as far as we were aware at the time of theorizing, I guess, we had no idea of any female Jedi that were alive. And we had no mainstay female characters that would be sort of suitable for that sort of we didn't have mainstay female characters at the time that we could have picked from. Like, having her be Obi-Wan's granddaughter, who we know was alive during the time of the Empire, or at least the early years, or having her be related to Palpatine or related to Luke somehow, was the best we had, because we had to assume, because anything published, any third-party content published before Disney took over was deemed non-canon. So we were left with a very limited pool of characters by which we could assume Rey received this Force gift. Which, is fine if she's not related to those people, but still, it doesn't explain the level of proficiency with which she uses her gifts. Rey's story was not the only one to be discarded in order for the narrative to focus on the nostalgia of the original trilogy. John Boyega's character Finn is also noticeably squandered in the film. He's squandered in this entire trilogy, let's be real here.
He was fine in the Force Awakens, but yeah, The Last Jedi started the whole trend of squandering his character.
Mm-hmm. And he was reduced to a sidekick helping Rey on a series of fetch quests.
Kind of like he was Well, he was kind of well, I guess he wasn't really a sidekick to Rose. Well, actually, yeah, he kind of
He was
became one by the
absolutely
end.
her sidekick. The Rise of Skywalker's worst act, however, is reducing the screen time for Kelly Marie Tran's character, Rose Tico, down to about 1 minute. Why? Why, Shoggoth? Why are you upset about this? People
Ho's
didn't like
mad,
the
Ho's
character,
mad, Ho's
and
mad.
I guess Ho's mad. While screen time doesn't get cut often for all characters in films, it's difficult to ignore the character's absence after years of racist harassment against Tran and death wishes for her character. Given that many
Years.
moments in the film appear to be direct responses to internet conversations, and the reason behind Tran's exclusion becomes increasingly and dreadfully apparent. What? People didn't like her, so people didn't like her, and Disney didn't really make any money off of her, so they cut her screen time. Like that's a logical progression. Like you notice how Jar Jar Binks doesn't have much screen time over the course of the sequel trilogy, of the prequel trilogy. There's a reason for that. People didn't like his character, so they cut his screen time down. Huh. As I stated, all of these decisions. Sorry, I just had a small seizure. As I stated, all of these decisions were likely done without thinking about any of the potential consequences of the people that could be hurt or the racist and sexist agendas these decisions inadvertently encourage. Remember, even when you do nothing, you're still helping the evil ones. Very true. Like Disney, like the reason trans screen time probably got cut was because she didn't sell well. Like that was it. She didn't sell well. She didn't make Disney any money, so her screen time got cut. However, whether we choose to recognize the truth of the effective political attack against the Star Wars sequel trilogy or not, the final film in the Skywalker saga is a perfect example of how difficult it is to identify the differences between genuine fan concerns and full-blown culture wars. It also demonstrates how vital it is for businesses and creatives to understand those differences. As it stands, the Star Wars sequel trilogy is an unfortunate testimony of the power of organized hate and the violent and vitriolic lengths that people will go to in order to stop cultural progress. Again, that word pops up, cultural progress. Define cultural progress for me. But again, this is the most telling paragraph about mentality. It's not that the film wasn't the next film in the trilogy wasn't what I wanted, so it must have been, so it's worthwhile to examine the previous film and see why. It is obviously someone else's fault. Of course, the alt-right on YouTube were not happy with the film. They will not be satisfied until the sequel trilogy is never spoken of again. Only time will tell how the trilogy will move forward and be remembered. In the meantime, there was one person who was pleased with this outcome. Ben Shapiro, the Jewish white supremacist. The Jewish Nazi, if you will. Just saw Rise of Skywalker. Everyone is wrong. The movie is mostly a nostalgia-packed joy. If you love the original Star Wars, you should be grateful to J.J. Abrams for attempting to right his own wrongs in Force Awakens and the travesty that is The Last Jedi. Mild spoilers incoming. Finn and Poe remain boring and irrelevant, but Kylo Ren is given an actual arc, and Rey is reveal is pretty big, and the answer, here's the key Mary Sue questions about her. The nasty endings for Han and Luke are brought back, and Leia is given some great backstory and a solid ending. Basically, if you were pissed at what they did about in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, all your favorite childhood characters, they tried to undo it in The Rise of Skywalker, and that is great. That doesn't mean the new trilogy was necessary. It wasn't, but it exists, and it was a good way to, and this was a good way to end it. It was possible given the brutal screw-ups of the first two films. So here's what I'm saying. I hated The Force Awakens. I hated Last Jedi. I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. But excuse me, Jesus. Because it was an apology for all of that. No. Sorry, Ben Shapiro, you're wrong. But, that's... You know what? That's Ben Shapiro's opinion. So, Ben Shapiro is welcome to his opinion. Ben Shapiro is good at politics. He is not so good at media. As exampled by WAP. Just don't, Ben. Don't. By the way, it is on my bucket list, if anyone's listening, to go to a live event, like a Ben Shapiro speaking event, and ask him what it feels like to shoot himself in the foot. Really, I want to know. All right. What we never learned from Gamergate. I'm pretty sure this is the last paragraph. All right. It's very easy to roll your eyes and say that everything I've written here is overblown. Yes, it is. They're simply movies. Yes, they are. You pay your money, you have your opinion, and you go home. Correct. Rinse and repeat. But the reality is that we live.
This is also Gamergate's fault.
But the reality is that we live in a world where a few very intelligent people are counting on you to think that way. They will use that complacency to build the world they want. This is what Steve Bannon knew in 2014, and 7 years later, we're still being blindsided by the same strategy. This was never about Star Wars. It was just as 7 years ago. It was never about video games. This plan of action will continue to move from one space to the next, hiding tactfully behind the illusion that these are just discontent fans voicing an opinion. And in each space, more and more people will be radicalized by the real existential threat we are facing. Technology is moving ahead of us at a pace our evolution is not equipped to handle. This means that those who can figure out how to exploit it, our inability to keep up with those advances will hold power that they never would have held otherwise. This is combined with a long, grueling history of hate, racism, sexism, and bigotry that we consistently fail to acknowledge and learn from as a society. These two factors alone create a perfect environment where a minority of people can threaten the entire foundation of civilization, and the majority doesn't pay enough attention or doesn't care enough to notice. After a very near decline of democratic power in the most influential nation on earth, that sentence shouldn't sound extreme. But it does, though. You know why? Because it sounds insane. The danger presented here is what the culture war embodies. It is a swift, effective pipeline to hate and extremism that creates a larger resistance against progressive political change. Define these things. If enough resistance is built up within society against progressive change, then that change will be blocked from happening. If the rights and representation of underrepresented groups are kept from culture, so it flows that they will be kept from politics, and in the end, this is the goal. Except we don't do that. We don't block people from engaging in culture and politics. That's the thing. Nobody has said black people can't play X, Y, and Z role, nor has anyone said that these races cannot participate in the political system.
This is the most batshit insane straw man I've ever seen.
Like, you're acting as if the mere fact that people don't want to be politics to be shoved down their throat at every single juncture is somehow going to lead back to the era of slavery and Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Which the Democrats are responsible for, Shoggoth. You should probably look into that. Learn your history before you speak about a subject like that. I want to conclude. Fuck me. All right. I want to conclude this article with a quote from Deadspin, written in October 2014, that was included in an article titled "The Future of Culture Wars is Here, and It's Gamergate." Kyle Wagner writes, "What made Gamergate effective is that it's exploited the same basic loophole in the system that generations of social reactionaries have. The press's genuine and deep-seated belief that you gotta hear both sides, even when not presupposing that all truth lies at a fixed point exactly equidistant between two competing positions. The American press works under the assumption that anyone more respectable than, say, an avowed neo-Nazi is operating in something like good faith."
How do you know if they're an actual neo-Nazi?
And avowed.
Yeah. Because this random blue check mark on Twitter said so. Therefore, it must be true.
No. And avowed. Avowed means they are like openly neo-Nazi.
Oh, okay.
But basically what this is saying, what this first paragraph is saying, is that the media believes that both sides need to be heard, which is an outright falsehood. An outright falsehood. But he brings up the point that the assumption, we assume that the truth lies somewhere at a fixed point, exactly equidistant between two competing positions, which you'll find more often than not, it is. It very often does. If you listen to both sides of an argument, and you'll find that the collection of data and facts you'll have on both sides will generally generate some form of central truth. Like, will usually generate a position that you can understand both sides, but understand that both sides are ignoring significant facts from the other. So you end up with a more whole view of the event, the argumentation. So arguably, you could reach a fixed point called the truth, quote unquote. And then he goes on to say the American press basically works under the assumption that if you basically aren't screaming at the top of your lungs, "Kill the Jews," you're operating in good faith, which is, again, a lie. And this is why a loosely organized, lightly noticed collection of gamers operating from a playbook that was showing its age during Ronald Reagan's rise to power have been able to set terms of a debate in a $100 billion industry, even as they send women like Brianna Wu into hiding and show every sign that they intend to keep doing so until all their demands are met. What demands did Gamergate make? We wanted honest journalism from the video game industry. That's it. All we did, all Gamergate asked of gaming journalists was to do their job correctly. That's it. Brianna Wu never went into hiding either. There's no evidence of her being attacked. There is significant evidence that she never actually left her home. Thank you, 4chan, by the way, for discovering that. In the time since this article was written, this event has not only replicated itself across every part of pop culture, but it has been used to help elect a dangerous bigot and bring a country to the brink of civil war.
Hey. And by civil war, what? The Capitol incident?
I don't know. I guess. If we choose once again not to pay attention, in 7 years, where will we be?
Well, hopefully the masses will learn to start laughing at people like you.
I agree. The best weapon against these people is satire. That was painful and one of the longest conspiracy theories I've ever read.
Yep, but it's over now.
Thank God. All right. Quick exit because I know you have to be up early tomorrow. Next week, no show. I will be out of town. I'm gonna go fishing with the fam, so I will be on a boat, basically no internet. It'll be awesome. But the week after that, we have something special for y'all. So look forward to that. Anyway. It is appreciated, Cyrek. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I know I don't ask every time, but it does help us grow the channel. So, if you like us, share us around. With that, thank you so much. You'll have a great night.